Grab your dancing shoes, Wargamers, because today your host is taking you downtown. Oh, I was painting a little bit earlier. This is the brand new terrain set that I've been working on for some ultra modern day ripped from the headlines Wargaming. We're going to be doing some warfare, asymmetric in style, in the downtown areas. And I wanted to show you how I am going about constructing this next suite of terrain. As usual, we are going compact, we are going efficient, and we are going as cheap as possible while still delivering the impressionistic painting of your typical downtown area. So, let's get right to it. The major construction here is very simple. Each square block, and I've got a few of them that we'll walk you through, is composed of, let me move our buildings out of the way first, just a simple piece of masonite hardboard cut into 12 by 9 pieces, 12 by 9 so that they'd fit nice and neat inside one single box. I took a piece of, this is called mat board. You can get these pieces, it's about this size, for a buck down at the local Ben Franklin. Locally, when they cut out the mat board for the interior of, say, a picture or a painting frame, they're always left with 8 by 10 pieces. And now mine is 7 by 9, so I had to cut some strips off. Not a problem. Paint black, paint gray, you're off to the races. Then all you need to do, I actually got a rounding. Those of you that play hex and counter war games will be familiar with these. Just a simple paper punch to give it a nice rounded sidewalk. And what that does is it allows me to drop my buildings right into the center of the block. Now obviously this is just a very basic first step. The blocks are a simple piece of wood. Because I'm going to be using 6mm miniatures with this, a ½ inch piece is all I need. If you go with a regular scale of 1 millimeter equals 1 foot, then this will be the first story. It's about 12 feet high. Now, to be honest with you, I kind of would have liked to have gone with a 3/4 inch instead of the ½ inch. However, that would have tripled the cost of the lumber. Not a whole lot, but you know, it's something. And the ½ inch pieces of lumber came in nice, tidy 2, 3, and 4 inch widths that all I had to do was cut to size and sand down, and I'm off to the races. So that is the general construction. Now obviously I'm painting in some striping and some crosswalks for our civilians, and this will need a lot more detailing once I haven't glued these down yet, because I want to paint these sides with doors and windows and maybe an awning or two. That's where the extra 1/4 inch would really come in handy. However, the extra 1/4 inch, given how many of these boards I have, would have reduced the number of boards that would fit into my container. So I'm content. This will be fine. And since we're going to be limiting combat strictly to the street level, we're not going to be entering any buildings. And if we do, we can always just put the pieces right on top. So this is a good kind of compromise between beauty, functionality, and all of the usual. We can add some fences, we can add some hedges, we'll probably paint in some, once we get the buildings detailed and glued into place, we'll probably paint down some stripes for parking lots, maybe paint in some additional sidewalks along there. So with all of that kind of construction out of the way, the next thing that we should talk about, and this is really what you need to think about when you put together a project like this. How is it all going to fit together? Oh, hey, as a brief aside, I put that crosswalk in the wrong area. I'm not too worried about it. We're just going to blame that on the street department screwing up, or maybe adjusting where the roads were and having to paint over it. I like to think that this kind of mistake adds verisimilitude to your terrain, because it's the kind of thing that happens in real life as well. If everything was completely perfect, this wouldn't look nearly as realistic. To be honest with you, I don't know about your city, but what I should really do is paint about 1 million potholes in the road. That's not going to happen, but that would make it very realistic. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to cut and pause. I'm going to come back here in just a minute. I want to lay all these pieces out for you. Bear in mind that what I've got is 6 pieces that are, as I said, 9 by 12. So that gives me a terrain that is 18 by 36 across. Is it 12? Yeah, 18 by 36 across. But I had enough room. In fact, I'll tilt this just to show you. So if we count, I can fit 4 of these into each of the 2 bins. Well, with 6, that gave me enough room for additional buildings. So I did something clever. Let me show you. So the first thing you'll notice here, so this is our 6 city blocks all laid out. 2 by through, plenty of broad thoroughfares. We'll have to get some Jersey barriers or something to block line of sight if need be. And of course, all of these buildings are subject to final placement later. As you can see, it's very grid work looking downtown right now, which is kind of appropriate. You'll notice that this particular tile is a little bit different from the other 5. These 5 all have the sidewalk area in the lower left as we look at them. This one does not. This one gives me an opportunity for a broad thoroughfare and a couple of zigzags. It's just one way of making it a little bit different to break up the monotony. But wait, there's more. I had enough room and enough materials left over to build 3 half pieces. Now, this piece is 5.5 by 9. So I can slot these 3 pieces in and add even more variety to the layout. Let me show you. Now what we have is a terrain set that is 36 by 24, and because of these little half jobbers, we've got some narrow alleys running every which way. We can make some dead ends, and because these are exactly half the size of these guys, I can double them up if I want to. It also allows me to make some much more irregular shapes. The one thing that I'm not sure about at this point is how to ensure that all of my crosswalks line up. They're pretty good right now. I put some thought into that for the first 4 that I did, but when it comes to these guys, it might get a little tricky. You know, we might have some dashed lines running through and some crosswalks only going halfway. I'll have to pause and give that a little bit more thought. But you can see that now we have a proper Pac-Man layout that's going to be just great for the kind of warfare that we have in mind. The specific scenarios will become much more evident as we move forward. Some of you, based on the videos I've already made, can probably guess what I have in mind. But you know, go ahead and leave a prediction in the comments if you must. And here in the next couple of videos, you'll find out for sure, one way or the other, how right you were. In the meantime, this whole thing, now to be fair, the masonite board I got from a buddy who had a bunch left over, but even if I had to pay for that myself, this whole thing probably cost me, spray paint included. I mean, these are actually 2 different colors of gray. I know they don't look it, but it's 2 different kinds of primer. Call it $15 for the paint. The masonite's probably the most expensive piece, and I only used about 1/3 of that. The lumber was maybe $12, so we're looking at maybe $40 altogether for this entire 2x3 setup, and I'm really looking forward to getting a little more done. I'll be using green scrubbies to add in some greenery and some bushes, maybe a few planters. This barren patch right here is going to be our downtown park, complete with statue and steps and all kinds of wonderful little greeblies to complicate life for our antagonists and for our protagonists. And who's the pro and who's the ant? Well, you'll have to decide that for yourself when we get down to the battle reports. In the meantime, there's some ideas for you. If you want to build a 6mm scale downtown area, it should be easy enough to scale this up. If I were doing this for, say, 28mm, I would probably go ahead and use, particularly if you're strictly looking at the street fight, you know, you may need to go with like a 2x4. You want to go with, this is an easy, cheap pine. If you're going with a larger scale, you'll probably want to go with something more like a maple, but something that maintains a nice, crisp, building-like edge. So look forward to updates. Probably gonna hand paint all these, and might be a couple of weeks before we get this detailed enough to actually show it off and put it to good use. But hey, that's okay, because it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And even just doing this little project, I've learned a lot about how to do this style of project. So really glad to be able to share this with you and hopefully give you some ideas for your table. Go forth, build your own mini cities, get ready to see them trashed by all kinds of forces. In the meantime, God bless you. Thanks for watching.